Great, thanks, Nick. This is going to be a hybrid event. We've got some people coming in remotely and some people here in the auditorium. So I'm going to introduce everybody before I hand over to the chair. So I'd like to introduce, first of all, Lizzie Banks. And we have Abby Canning. This is working. I feel like I'm on Eurovision. Hello, Riga. If somebody could give me some points, I would appreciate them. And then we also have Yvonne Smith and Jonathan Glenedy joining us. And I will hand over to our chair, Lizzie, to introduce everybody properly.
Thanks for joining us for this session. It's really lovely to see you all online, spiritually, and there in the room. Thank you so much for being here. So I'd like to start the session by thanking the panel for taking the time to be here. And to kick us off, I'd like to introduce ourselves and our places of work. So I'll go first. My name's Lizzie. To subscribe, I'm a white woman. I've got long brown hair and pink glasses on, and I'm sitting in my vaguely festive living room in Brighton. I'm Deputy Artistic Director at Carousel, which is an award-winning learning disability-led arts organisation, and we produce Oscar Bright Film Festival, which is the world's biggest learning disability film festival, which has grown in size and impact since 2004, and we now welcome thousands of people to our biannual festival, which happens in Brighton and hopefully all across the UK, all being well. And the next festival will happen in March 2022. We work with learning disabled people all over the UK and partners to make sure that the work of learning disabled people can be celebrated in venues and seen by their peers. So, to my panel. First of all, Abby, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be welcomed here and join in this event. My name is Abby Canning. I'm the Creative Wellbeing Curator at Derby Quad. Quad is an arts centre based in Derby. We have cinema, gallery, a cafe bar, and we have a wide programme of participation activities. I oversee the creative wellbeing element of all of those activities across both cinema and participation and gallery engagement.
Brilliant, thanks Abby. Jonathan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, so I'm Jonathan Glenedy. I'm the cinema administrator at the Barbican Centre. And to visually describe, I'm a white male in my early 30s with short, dark blonde hair. I'm average height, wearing glasses and a fun kind of orange pattern shirt. I think it's fun.
It's fun. It looks good. Thanks, Jonathan. And Yvonne, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Yvonne. I'm head of cinema operations for Filmhouse in Edinburgh, and we also run the Edinburgh International Film Festival. I'm a white woman. I'm 40. I've got shoulder length hair, and I'm wearing a kind of flowery dress, which is usually my description. And yeah, we're a kind of art house cinema in Edinburgh with 3 screens. We also have a cinema in Aberdeen, the Belmont Filmhouse, again with 3 screens.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody. So to set the scene a little bit, there's been some incredible work over the past few years to develop audiences that come to our venues and see the work that we have on offer. And the developments in autism-friendly screenings, relaxed screenings, dementia-friendly screenings have all been absolutely incredible. And there's been more of this work happening more than ever. And venues have been working hard to focus, to develop audiences and have a wider reach. And I think as a sector, we can all agree that we've all made great steps in this work, and we've been able to engage a wider range of people. However, the last 2 years have had a huge impact on us as a sector, and we don't want this good work to end. And we know that financial recovery is key to venues and organisations coming out the other side of everything that's happened. But what about these audiences that we've developed over the past few years? From the perspective of learning disabled people, with 2 years of COVID combined with cuts to social care, it's put learning disabled people right back at the start. We spoke to our artists, and one of them said, the isolation doesn't end for us. And that really hit home with us. And, you know, it's such a horrible position to be in. People's confidence has been knocked. And we know that from our own research that people are having to rebuild the lives that they had before COVID. And that's a long road, and it requires time and support and a willingness from exhibitors to invest time and dedication into developing these audiences again. As a festival ourselves, we work really hard to think about retooling and trying to deliver screenings online. We started a program of work called Oscar Bites, where we packaged up films from our own festival and paired them with conversations and Q&As with filmmakers from all over the world. And it was absolutely fantastic. In that early part of lockdown, it gave us all a bit of a focus and an opportunity to connect with one another. But having screenings online, these are barriers too. When we take into consideration digital poverty and the limited support hours that people have to access just being online, it means that we're not reaching everybody. So the communal cinema experience is something that's so important and special, and something that we want to make sure that learning disabled people get back to. We want to help people rebuild their confidence and get back to being out and about and part of culture again. We asked our audiences how they were feeling about things, and 63% of learning disabled audiences said that they've not returned to the cinema since lockdown has ended, and 63% also said they might not be ready to return next year. There are lots of worries about the rules, not understanding what they can and can't do, and worrying that venues don't know how to support them in this time. So as a sector, we need to be providing safe and welcoming spaces for people and showing them that cinema is a great place to be and a great place to spend time. So what can we do? How can we get people back into our cinemas? So as a festival, we decided that we needed to launch a venue support program called Welcome Back. So, looking at the fact that learning disabled audiences will be facing greater challenges and barriers coming back to the cinema. And, we're still really keen to make sure that cinema can reach and have a big impact with the learning disabled community. So we wanted to offer a venue-led and a holistic support program to venues with a wide range of different elements of support that can really be led by the venue. And we wanted to offer our program of shorts as well, so that learning disabled people can see themselves on the big screen as well when they return to the cinemas. So we were really overwhelmed by the interest that we had for this scheme. And we're really delighted that other venues see it as a priority and an important move to welcome back learning disabled audiences. So we're really pleased to be welcoming and working with some fantastic organisations this year. And we hope that this is just the very beginning of our work together and the journey of welcoming these audiences back to the cinema. So let's hear from the panel about why and why now. So my first question, Abby, maybe you'd like to go first. Why now, and why is it important to start this work for you as Quad?
My answer to that, really, Lizzie, would be echoing quite a lot of the background there you've just put about the social exclusion that this audience has felt across lockdown. We've been very aware with that, of the work that we do. We've kept in contact with some of those audiences, but in terms of the amount, when we reopened, we weren't seeing actual visitors back into our space as well. So we were really passionate to not only welcome back returning audiences and how we can best support them to access us, but engage new audiences as well, which certainly within the economic climate, services have been really cut back even more for learning disabled people. So we were really, really aware that this is a group of people that aren't getting the support perhaps that they need. So we wanted to see how we could possibly become as best as we could in welcoming them back and supporting them to access our cinema programme, and through that see that as a way into welcome that audience back into the whole of our participation programme and engagement in the whole range of different activities within our organisation that we run that can support this audience as well. So it was a very good, it's kind of with the cinema in a sense is a bit of an easier in to actually start to familiarise those audiences with our venue, and actually then slowly have that familiarisation to the wider programme of activity to really provide meaningful engagement and something really of interest to do to those for those audiences as well.
That's fantastic, and so nice that you see cinema as that stepping stone to wider buy-in with the rest of what you have on offer. That's fantastic. That's really lovely. Thank you. Jonathan, how about you? Why now for this work?
Well, I also realised I neglected to kind of explain my place of work and what I do there. So the Barbican Centre is a multi-art centre in London, and my role within it is in the cinema, which is around kind of planning and operations, but also looking at making our programme more accessible. So yeah, I mean, to echo a little bit of what you guys have said so far, as we came back into venue in September 2020, going in myself, it didn't feel like a very friendly welcome, but it was what was there, to kind of keep everybody safe and kind of, I mean, not because of doing that, but I was already aware that this was going to be a very difficult way back into providing a relaxed screening program, which we'd kind of successfully held for about 5 years up until then. And for me, we've started to bring that back, but it's the loss of trust, I think, and the opportunity to work with yourselves, Lizzie, it just seemed like exactly the right thing that we needed to build trust in order to help people feel like they can trust us to keep them safe, but also trust us to provide what it is they need in terms of what do they want to see, start a conversation, which is the kind of the goal at the end of all this really is to have that conversation about what do people want. We don't want to be programming for them. Like, I want to give them access to our program, but it's also like, what do people want? So it's like that, the idea of a welcome back program and working alongside yourselves who have that kind of relationship already just seems like the kind of perfect opportunity to build back and build back better than we were previously.
Yeah, in a way, I guess we're all starting from scratch again. And it gives us the opportunity to reassess and have a think about how we can do things better, like you say. Brilliant. Thanks, Jonathan. And Yvonne, how about you?
I guess a lot of it's been expressed already, but I think something for me personally, as we were getting ready to reopen after the pandemic, was how the conversation around safety just shot to the top of every meeting. It was the most important thing, and we talked and talked and talked. How will we make sure people feel safe? And as all the kind of realities of everyday cinema exhibition life, like funding and money and operations and stuff, have crept back in, I'm really keen to kind of hold on to that. How can people feel safe in our spaces conversation? And I guess for me, this work kind of, ties in with that, more people finding the venue like a comfortable, safe, welcoming space is really important to me. And yeah.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. I think lots of like we forget, or I certainly forget that lots of learning disabled people see venues as also a place just to hang out and be, and I think that's the real strength that independent cinemas have, is that we're able to do that. You're able to do that. You can create these lovely, safe, welcoming spaces where people will happily come and hang out and have a cup of tea or a gin and tonic, and they can make it their home as well as somewhere that they just come and watch films. So, yeah, I think that's really lovely. So, if you've done this work in the past, how did it go, and what were the challenges, or what went well? Abby, would you like to kick off on that one?
We have done some work on this. Prior to the lockdown, we did supported environment screenings, and we had kind of quite a small regular cohort that were accessing that. I think our main challenges have been around programming. And I think that's why, again, going back to your first question of why now as well, is you offered this support for us to really have that pocket of expertise in that understanding and gaining that understanding, working with that audience. So we want to kind of adopt that approach. I think, we've spoken about a learning disabled programmers group. We really want that audience to feed into what we're showing. And that was always a challenge for us to kind of pick that and tone it right. So that was something that we didn't have expertise or understanding in, really, was always a challenge for us, really, and why we're incredibly grateful to be working with yourselves to really develop that understanding and expertise within our cinema programming team, to help us to welcome that audience as well. So I think for us that's been the biggest challenge, is the content, I would say. Obviously engaging those audiences. I think we're very passionate about inclusivity and accessibility within our organisation, and I've always been a strong advocate to get training across the whole of the staff team and through everybody, from the cafe staff, front of house, visitor services. Everybody needs to be as skilled up and educated as possible, because we want to, and echoing everybody else as well, we want to cultivate that safe space for people to go. So there's that city centre safe space, a venue that people know that they can go to and feel welcoming. And I think as an organisation we are quite good at that, but it was just pitching the content of what people want. And we're really grateful for your support through this programme in gaining understanding and of that.
I think, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there, haven't you? Really, it's the whole experience, isn't it, from door to seat, and it's making sure that everybody is on board and understands the different needs that people have, and the types of people that will be coming into the building, and what's best for those people. So that's fantastic that you've identified that, and you see that as something that needs to be looked at, and that everybody should be on board with that. And about programming, it's very difficult, isn't it? And I think, like you were saying about having a learning disabled programming group is exactly the kind of thing there. And it goes back to that phrase, if you see it, you can be it. And if people know that they can have a job programming at a venue, that's incredible. That's a pathway and an avenue opened up for somebody, and a whole new world of opportunities. And if you don't ask people what they want to see, you might program completely the wrong thing. So I think that's really excellent that you're ready to take on that challenge. Thanks, Abby. Jonathan, how about you? Could you talk about the work you've done in the past and any challenges you might have had?
Yeah, definitely. So we at the Barbican started Relax screenings in 2016. So it was a couple of years before I arrived, and they're part of the new release program. The idea is that the new release is the kind of backbone of our own program, so you'll make that accessible to everybody, not programming differently for a particular audience. It's like, access to our voice in that way. And when I joined, it became quite apparent that we had one on like a Friday afternoon, and that's fine, and it was kind of okay attendance, and regulars would come to that, but it's kind of obvious, like as soon as you think about it, so well, not everybody can come at that time. Some people want to come in the evening, as with everyone. So we immediately just looked to expand that, so there's now a second screening in the week, in the evening. And we continue to just try and improve and tweak the format, kind of mentioning like feeling safe in a space in its entirety. Not just thinking, okay, well, we've got this relaxed screening with this format, but you know, what is the journey like into our building? Is there a cafe that's particularly disturbing for people? Is the space kind of, have we got good enough quiet space? So we've just been kind of tweaking that for a while, like since I started. And then in 2020, we applied or worked towards the National Autistic Society's Autism Friendly Awards, just to kind of, and that was the kind of seal of approval for that venue. So that kind of felt good. We had that in place. We feel like people can feel and expect a certain amount in that space. And we then had it backed up. There was a research kind of project going on in the centre with the charity Autistica, who were doing something around the whole centre, and one of the things they did with us was to bring a focus group to our screenings and just give even more feedback. And that was so invaluable to have people in the space and give us really direct feedback about things that we really weren't doing well. And so we thought we had it all figured out, and you just learn constantly that you don't, and you can always improve it. Obviously then when the pandemic hit, it kind of just stopped all that. It kind of put like a screeching halt just as we were beginning to build and think about how do we really start connecting with audiences with the National Autistic Society, about how can you really connect to people properly and kind of let that inform your program. So that's kind of where we were, and now it's building back, and like you said, outreach is like the key. You know, we have our program, but like I'd love to have people I want more people to know about it, first of all. That's the key, is that we had a really shocking moment when someone from the focus group in Autistica said, I live very close by, I had no idea you did these. And you just think that, I mean, that's just such a failure. You know, you need to let people know what were we doing wrong there, so you can see the opportunity to make that better and program better. And also, like, part of it, I think, is also just audience awareness of what the relaxed screenings are. And I think that's going to be a big challenge, but one that we really want to like take on, because it's important. You can see relaxed screenings, there should be more of them, because they can be for such a diverse group of people. You know, we had someone who was coming who just had quite kind of high levels of anxiety, and she came regularly. And you know, there's so many people that will experience different things that would find that format to be beneficial. So for us, it's kind of, we need to just get outreach in terms of making sure people know what we're doing, get some programming input, and just involve them. I think just making people involved, and then also just kind of making our whole audience aware as well.
Fantastic, yeah. Like communication and trying to reach all these audiences is such a huge challenge, because it's such a resource heavy project, really. You know, you need to put time and effort into researching, connecting with people, and then constantly following up. And that in itself is really difficult to take on. But, you know, once you've done that and you've got that audience and they're engaged, then they're with you. You know, they love the space, they love what you're doing, and they'll keep coming back. But yeah, it's a big piece of work to undertake. Thanks, Jonathan. And Yvonne, how about you?
So in the past, most of the work we've done around welcoming people with learning disabilities has been with young people. So a few years ago, we had a group of young people come in partnership with a Scottish disability support charity called Thistle, and they came in and reviewed kind of everything from the nachos in the cafe bar, booking a ticket online, the films in the programme, the films themselves, just the whole kind of experience. And that was really like super fun and energizing and brutal because they were so blunt and like your seats are crap and a lot of that. But it was really, really nice. And then other things we've done quite a few times is we've had learning disabled young people come for work placements and work as ushers with us. And that's been really lovely as well. It's definitely, I think the first time we did it, we were super keen. And then on the day, we were just really like noticed, my colleague Jessie and I just noticed how stressed we were by it because just a young person, because you just have this extra kind of sense of responsibility and care for them, and you don't want a customer to be rude to them or something. And but watching them kind of grow in confidence over the sessions was really like fun and interesting. And so we've done that quite a few times. I guess challenges have been longevity. Like these things they just kind of happen when they happen and then they disappear again, and that's something that's quite exciting about Welcome Back. And I guess it's just never been this kind of 360. We're quite a big unwieldy organisation, and I think what Welcome Back offers is that it is working with marketing and with community engagement and with programme, and it's like really like cross-organisational, which I think will help us build. I think it's about confidence, and I think that's going to, if we're all having these conversations cross-departmentally, I think that's going to help us with a lot of confidence. And I thought I'd share a thing that I caught myself on when we were first welcoming learning disabled ushers, is that one of their mums was saying, well, you know, I don't want him watching any 15s, even though he's a 16. And I was like, all right, okay, we'll structure around that. And then when the support worker came in, they were like, he's 16, why can't he watch 15s? And I really was like, oh yeah, that's right. And you know, that kind of way that you just kind of naturally maybe catch yourself in some ways that when you interact with disabled people, but that kind of infantilization that a 16-year-old, just because he's learning disabled, can't watch a 15 certificate film. So I just remember that being a real like, oh yeah, totally, of course. And I understood his mum's concern, but yeah, 16-year-olds regardless are very into 15s and the content they provide, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge issue. Definitely something we found when we toured films around the UK. An usher came up to me once and complained that a film that we screened had some pants in it. And she was just horrified that we would show something where somebody was in their pants. And I just remember being like, but hang on a minute, like we're all in our pants, like everybody knows what that is, like that's absolutely fine, what we're doing here. But that's it, that's, you know, you think, oh, is this okay? And then you're like, no, it is okay, like it's totally fine, like let's do this, we can challenge this. Yeah, so that's great that you went ahead with that. That's amazing. And so nice that learning disabled people have been part of your venue and part of your staff, because to walk in to a venue as a learning disabled person and see someone like you working there, that's great. Like, you know that's a great place to be and a safe space if you see yourself there. So that's fantastic. So what changes do you think you're going to need to make as organisations to welcome these new audiences? Abby, would you like to kick off?
I think organisationally, we have always historically programmed daytime screenings for this audience, and certainly organisationally, I think that's something that we need to address and change. I think we should, as Jonathan mentioned, they have an evening screening as well, but I think that it's important. The point is that all of these adaptations, they're not just for the learning disabled audiences, it can benefit such a wider audience as well. So there is no reason why we as an organisation shouldn't be screening these on, have these supported screenings on an evening as well. And certainly I would say from our organisation that will be a big shift and change, because as an independent organisation, obviously it's been an incredibly financially difficult time. The cinema strand of our organisation is is seen as an income generator, really, to sustain the work that the whole organisation does. And I think I think these supported screenings, are not seen to be particularly profitable. And so I would say, in terms of that shift within our organisation, I think that will. I should have put that in the challenges as well, shouldn't I? Because certainly that will be a challenge. But I think as an organisation, I think that's what we're going to have to shift and understand, that by engaging and welcoming this audience back in, it doesn't exclude other audiences from accessing these screenings as well. And I think that's going to be a big piece of work within our organisation.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you and Jonathan have both said, these screenings can be placed for lots of other different people, and that's really fantastic, that's there for everybody. And yeah, the buy-in that you need to get, I guess, from your organisation and the rest of your team is the difficult bit. And I think, at the start of this process, always the audience numbers are small, because you have to build that trust, and it's hard to make sure everybody remembers that it's a longer process. But if you can make a great relationship with a day centre or a group home that has 20 people living there, and you get 4 or 5 of those, and they're your people, then you filled your auditorium, and you're done. You're sorted. So yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it? But yeah, thank you. Jonathan, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, first I kind of just wanted to reflect on programming in terms of things that changed, just because the feedback we got from the focus group that attended in February 2020, we were speaking to them about, what kind of things you'd be showing, and they just were like wanting to see Parasite, and we were saying, but what is there not things that might be like difficult or triggering? If you tell me what it is on the website, I'll make that decision for myself. And it was just like always trying to remember that, like not to make decisions for people, like you mentioned. But I guess one of the things we do need to change is to think about how we can expand that further. I'd like to make sure that our whole program, like curated family, is all kind of part of that. So that is a big challenge. It's quite a lot of work, but we can definitely get there. And I think a major challenge is, like, if you speak to anyone at the Barbican, they'll just talk about working in silos. It just feels like every single team, we've got all these great teams doing great things, but everybody just works in little pockets and don't speak to each other. And all of a sudden you find someone's doing something really interesting. You go, that's amazing, we're doing this. And it's just like light bulb moments like that. So that's been kind of happening a lot as we've come back into the centre, and like a kind of joined up offer of like access needs to be in place, like something that makes sense and is all together. If you're interested in film but also art, it's all together in the same place in a kind of readable way. And like as we've mentioned as well, to allocate resource and time, if we're going to be serious about being an accessible venue and live that value, you've got to put the time and resource into, and it's such an obvious one, but it's one of those things, like everyone's kind of mentioned, it always feels like it's one of the last things to be mentioned. It's like, oh well, it's not very profitable, it's going to cost us this. But like you say, if you do it and build the audience, then it's an audience. It could be a very big audience, and that we just don't know are out there. So that's like a really big challenge, but it kind of feels kind of exciting as well to find people that would love to come and that don't currently.
Yeah, I guess in an organisation of your size, like, it's really hard to know what everybody's doing all the time, and to like make sure that communication works and everybody understands. But yeah, if there's ways of pulling it all together and sharing that information, then like you say, you can have a richer offer and connect people to other things that are happening in the wider organisation. And it's brilliant for Londonderry people, because then everything's on offer in one place. That's fantastic. And they can really learn to love and trust where they're coming to. And Yvonne, how about you?
So working in silos, tech, and time and resources, tech, and I guess something about, I think we kind of know that we don't always do the best possible job in terms of inclusion, and then I think that makes us quite scared to do anything because we don't want to do it badly or wrong, or we don't have the time, or we won't do this perfect version of it. So I think something about just confidence and like bravery, and we've actually just really amazingly taken on community engagement staff for the first time. So we've got someone in Aberdeen and someone in Edinburgh, and it's just they're really kind of dragging inclusion kicking and screaming to the front door. Like we're just having to deal with it and be more responsive. And I guess as an organisation we're quite process based, so a lot of work has to be like, we really want everything in triplicate 3 weeks or a month in advance, and I think we need to be a bit more reactive and quick and kind of open,
Yeah, like getting sign off for stuff and having to run through different people, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it slows everything down, doesn't it? I think we all have that. We all have that issue. But yeah, it's just finding ways to make it work, isn't it? And to get things moving a little bit and to be reactive. That's easier said than done. I think we need to move to questions in a minute, but where would you like to where do you see what you're doing at the moment in 3 years? Where would you like to be in 3 years? Sorry, is what I mean. Abby, would you go first?
In my dream, ideally, we would be regularly engaging this audience. We would be running a whole program multiple times through the week of cinema screenings for this audience. We'll be running a program of participatory activity for this audience. We will be exhibiting work that they perhaps have created within the participatory work, and we've got a whole staff team across the whole building that are educated in working with and supporting these audiences as well. I think that I would love to be in the position where we are providing, we've cultivated this safe space and we are providing those supported work experience opportunities as well for learning disabled people. I think that's something that it is so valuable, so important, and actually I don't think as an organisation it would take a lot for us to be able to facilitate that. So I think that's absolutely would be my dream, that we were the go-to organisation within Derby that works with this audience for multiple kind of across multiple different activities.
Amazing. An achievable dream then, you think? Yeah. Brilliant. Jonathan, how about you?
I think we'd like to develop a kind of engaged, steady audience, and also achieve like a good amount of audience input. I like the idea of like local groups being in communication with us, discussing program, and with that kind of expanding it further, not just to be kind of 2 screenings within our new releases, like can it be a few more screenings, and like groups can maybe select in a particular slot and that's their kind of more regular slot. Like that's something I'd really like to work on. And as I mentioned, like I really want it to be across our like curated program with like partner festivals and particularly with our family program as well. We already work on access within the family program for deaf and hard of hearing audiences, but this would just be the next step, and it's a big challenge, but in 3 years maybe it could happen. And I think finally, just like I would like I've said already, but like our audience, our whole audience, to be more aware of what relaxed screenings and their purpose are. I just kind of want to kind of normalize them in a way that they're not something that's totally different. It's like almost, I really like this idea. I mean, this is not going to happen in 3 years, but if there was kind of relaxed and focused screenings, so that people could just have this idea of like, well, actually, I quite like the idea of this relaxed setting where things are more informal and it's not so loud. And and versus, you know, what we call a standard screening, which is dark and loud. It's like maybe that isn't for everyone, and just that's not going to be happening in 3 years. The other things I think we could maybe achieve.
Yeah, I think that like the idea of like audience education is really interesting. You know, I think that's the fear that some people have. You know, that they can't go to the cinema and they can't be themselves, make the noises they want to make, have the reactions they want to have, without, you know, being worried about people being annoyed or complaining about them. So trying to build up you know, knowledge and understanding with your core audience that these people are going to be in the venue and they're here to stay. I think that's something that is a huge piece of work, and that we all need to think about. You know, how can we make that more normal, make it the normal? That would be the brilliant thing, I think. And Yvonne, how about you?
Yeah, I guess so. Everything Abby and Jonathan said sounds really amazing. Yeah, confident, more relaxed, proud. It'd be really nice to feel really proud of our work, you know. I guess because my previous experience has been around young people, I would say a thing I reflect on is that another issue is that some parents wouldn't want their kids to get the bus to Filmhouse to do a shift. They wouldn't want the kid to be alone travelling on public transport. And the support workers, again, were really amazing at like pushing for that independence. So a kind of little goal I always hold in my head is that maybe, you know, that we would be a place where parents are like, oh, are you going to Filmhouse after school? No bother, I'll see you later. You know, like that we would be a space where parents would feel that their young people could make that journey, and that they would know they would be kind of looked after but also independent. So that's a little thing I think about sometimes as well. Yeah.
That's lovely. Yeah, that's an incredible thing. You know, to be a trusted space, not only to learning disabled people, but to their parents and their carers and their support workers. That's amazing. And then you're known by so many more other people as well, and trusted by them, and they'll become your audience too. I guess it's an even wider reach. Yeah, that's fantastic. Are there any questions? Have any questions come through?
Yes, they have. It's Eleanor again, reading some questions from Mentimeter. First question is, are there any particular communication channels you found to be particularly useful for reaching these audiences? Jonathan, do you want to take that first?
No pressure. No, I mean, to be honest, when I started, it was kind of building the format up before because I wasn't totally comfortable with how good it was at the time. But I think our outreach has been through kind of charities so far, you know, working with the National Autistic Society particularly was like our first kind of major step. But to be completely honest, it's the thing that we lack. It's the thing that we're not experts at. We don't have someone who's an expert at it. And to be honest, like I mentioned before, it's one of the key reasons we wanted to sign up for the Welcome Back program, because it gives experience and knowledge on being able to do that exact thing that we just don't know how to do well enough.
Yvonne?
I guess, yeah, just person to person, charities, support groups, door knocking. I think most of the work we've done has kind of fallen in our lap because people have come to us. But there's obviously a lot of things around literacy. I guess that's something I hadn't talked about earlier, but like I think we have, because of the type of films we have, we do struggle and try and keep the literacy level of our marketing low, but it is quite hard to not suddenly be describing a film in a really complex way. So I think that's really important, but I think the connections have to come first, and then after the connections, you would then hope that they would then view our social as accessible, and then, but I think, yeah.
Thanks. So the next question is, what are the next steps for the programme? Is there an opportunity for other organisations to learn from those on it now?
Yes, most definitely. So next year we're hoping to run the programme again. So we'll be looking for new partners. And our festival's happening 17th to the 23rd of March. But on the 29th of March, we're going to be having an industry day at BFI South Bank, and a lot of that day is going to be focused around this topic. So we'll be inviting the panelists here today, hopefully, if they'd like to come and talk about their experiences. We'll be inviting other people who have done similar work and kind of exploring, some first kind of easy steps to take, and trying to support people to start thinking about how they can develop these audiences. So most definitely, yes, there's lots of opportunity to get involved.
That's great. And then we have a sort of two related questions, so I'm going to read them both. But do you think there are benefits to having a joined up approach, not only within organisations trying to get out of these silos, but with any other cinema and arts organisations? And then to follow up, Yvonne particularly, could you elaborate on how you've worked cross-departmentally to promote screenings for learning disabled audiences? Well, throw over to you and then we can hear from the others.
Well, I guess we haven't yet. I guess that's what the Welcome Back training is kind of promising, because it's about a specific programme of films and community engagement, marketing training, and wider front of house staff training. And I guess because it's like a project for us as an organisation, that tends to bring lots of people to a table together. I mean, these are just the woes of giant organisations that hopefully most of you don't have to suffer. But yeah, if something has a project and a kind of label, it's easier to get everyone around and talking about it and engaged in it, and then working through, I guess.
Thank you. Do you have any other thoughts, Jonathan, there on joined up approaches?
The same in terms of working in silos. It's kind of, you have all these people doing work at one level, and they're doing off their own backs, finding budget where they can, making connections where they can. And then you have like a kind of senior management who say, this is how we should be. And the twin never meet. And these things need to meet. It needs to be like there's a strategy, and then there's resource and time. It's not something that you can just say we're going to do it, and then some people will try and find the time within the masses of other work that they have to do. It needs to be buy-in, like, entirely.
Thank you. It's not on the Mentimeter, but I have a question. And I'm just thinking about that question around audience education, I think is really interesting. And the, experiences of people coming in and having negative reactions and interactions with other patrons of the cinema, be it in the building or in the screen, and just how that works in terms of this programme, in terms of thinking about learnings that could be taken even to commercial cinemas, perhaps as well, like how you welcome back audiences, but also inform other audiences that this is happening. And I just wonder if you could speak a bit to that. Yvonne, you go ahead.
It's a huge tension in our organisation, because we really have the kind of no phones on and sit silently. And years ago we showed the Amy documentary, and all these like drunk young women came to watch it, and we were like, there's this huge irony in us like kind of scolding them for going to the toilet too much and stuff. So we're really trying to break down a lot of that kind of old school, this is a place of art. And I guess a thing that's happened with COVID is all that kind of regulation and restriction, and you have to stand here and social distance and things. That's kind of brought a lot of that back in. But I think it's just about being really unwavering about it. I guess a little bit about the conversation about gender neutral toilets this morning. Like you have to draw a line, right? And you just cannot try and accommodate that sort of behaviour. And I think post or maybe pre-COVID, I don't know, I think we just got to a point as a kind of management team where we were like, do you know what, no, it's just not okay, and we just need to stop it. And yeah, so
I mean, yeah, it's a really difficult challenge. I remember remembering some training we had with Jess Tom, who kind of said, you're going to have to give people more of an offer. you're going to have to make it more apparent that people can come who are, she has Tourette's, but people with learning disabilities or whatever it may be. Because she did basically, I can come to any screening I want. So you need to do the work to educate people and give me more of an offer as well. If you don't want that friction, then maybe you have to give me more opportunities to come and see things. And it is really difficult, but I think just the more of them you do and the more you talk about them, they're not maybe mentioned on your social media in the same way that all your other programs are. So mention them on your social media because they're part of your program. It's a lot, but it's just that. It's just kind of, I guess that's it.
I think, like Yvonne's saying as well, like, be bold and be brave and like just go for it. You program this stuff, you get learning disabled people working in your venue and being a face that people see every day. You show these people enjoying the space on social media. You just make it more apparent that it's happening and it's a part of what you do now. And hopefully over time, that breaks down people's preconceptions of what they think people can and can't do or what they'll do. Or I think, just try and be bold with it as much as possible.
Thanks, Lizzie. We've got about 5 minutes left. There isn't any more questions on the Mentimeter. I think you guys have done such a good job of covering what you've been up to. So I don't know if there's any last comments you wanted to make, Lizzie.
I think, we've talked about some really important things here today. And I think a big thing is, like everybody said, is getting buy-in from the rest of your organisation that this is something that's really important and that should be happening within all our venues. But, like Jonathan's saying, that needs to happen at the top as well as, at other levels, and there needs to be that kind of leadership that this change can happen and that it's a welcome change. And these are the venues of the future that we should be creating, and we should be welcoming as many different people into our spaces. But like I was saying, this is something hopefully that we'll cover a little bit more at Oscar Bright. So I please love you all to come and be part of the festival, and to also come and see some films, made and featuring learning disabled people. Because also, programming wise, it's about thinking about changing the faces and the experiences that we see on screen as well. And hopefully by seeing those stories, we welcome different people into our venues. So please mark the 17th to the 23rd of March in your diaries and come along and see some great work. But thank you so much to Abby, Yvonne and Jonathan for being part of this session today, and for being part of the programme. Welcome back as well. If anybody's interested in finding out more, please drop me a line. But thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for giving us the space to talk about this work as well.